to live our legacy. It's what we were born for.
If we want to live in a better world, it's up to us to make that.
I hope that enough people can read the book where they will develop an attitude of peace, happiness, and nonviolence.
Your legacy is not one thing, it's every life you touch.
Welcome to another episode of What's Your Legacy, a production of the law offices of Taylor Hachoose in Yardley, Bucks County, Pennsylvania.
Today's guest is Tracey Boston. Tracey is a super yacht stewardess, and she's the co-founder of Our Faceless Crew, which assists new recruits, junior crew, and established members of the yachting industry in elevating their skills. She believes in the power of shared knowledge and the impact it can have on individual growth and the broader maritime community. She was born in Antigua. Tracey has woven a rich tapestry of cultural experiences from living across the globe, from the Caribbean to countries like Turkey and France and Italy and Slovenia. Her 15-year career as a flight attendant, including 7 years as a trainer, culminated in her receiving the Customer Service Employee of the Year award from Antigua Hotel and Tourism Association. Tracey has a lifelong commitment to excellence in hospitality and tourism, and she continuously explores ways to impact others in the industry. So we're very, very fortunate to have Tracey on What's Your Legacy to share this interesting journey that she's had. Hi, Tracey.
Well, hello there, and thank you for having me. I'm very pleased to be here.
Well, it's my pleasure to have you in an area, an arena that's different from most. I mean, it's an unusual journey, and it's a very important area to be in. I mean, you have tourism, but you have a very specific niche. And we're going to find out more about that and how you got into it and a little background information on yourself. And I'd like to start with that. So I know you were born in Antigua, but tell us about being born in Antigua and growing up, where you grew up, if you grew up there.
Well, absolutely. So I was born in Antigua, but my parents are from Dominica, which is a very tropical island south of Antigua, and St. Kitts, which is a small island to the north of Antigua. And they met in Antigua. The Caribbean really is the home to a lot of pioneers in their own way. And for me, I'm not a pioneer for sure, but I'm definitely someone who, in a way, set a little bit of a path for many from my country to follow, and we will talk about that later, that being the yachting industry. Yes, growing up, I was always around boats, always at the sea with my parents. And Antigua, as some may know, is a very famous island for its history and its naval history, British naval history, in fact, because it was the island with one of the best sheltered natural ports, harbors. And as a result of that, it became a safe haven for the British Navy. As a result of that, and of our beautiful trade winds, which we have, Antigua became a central point for yachting in the whole Caribbean. Every year, Antigua has one of the most famous boat shows that comes out of the Caribbean and the yachting industry. And I was around that for many, many years and became very influenced by it and by the people who I saw. I liked the thought of the lifestyle. I liked the idea of being on the water. And I also liked the idea of being one of the very few Antiguans, and certainly one of the fewest Antiguan women to actually enter yachting. So that was my inspiration. One, to be one of the first, and two, to definitely get out there and experience the lifestyle, and to carry a bit of my Caribbean hospitality to the rest of the world and to show them what the Caribbean spirit is all about.
So when you think about your journey to become what you now refer to as a super yacht stewardess, first you kind of create a niche, a super yacht stewardess. I know growing up on the water and being around boats and beautiful yachts and what have you, but you had to take that first step to have something that was in line with that as a profession. How did that happen?
Well, the thing is, at the time, I was actually a flight attendant. I had been a flight attendant for 15 years, and the airline that I was working for was coming to a close. And I thought, well, what's the next step? You never move sideways, move up, level up. And so my idea was to continue in the hospitality industry, but on what we consider a bit of a higher level, which is dealing with ultra high net worth individuals on a more sort of upscaling, if you want to call it that. Certainly, I had to go through a lot of training because to be a yacht stewardess in our current environment, you have to have certain certificates. And one is a certificate where you actually learn firefighting, medical, survival at sea, and it's quite intensive program. So I did that in 2007, along with some other stewardess training for hospitality and beautiful things like table setting and formal settings, things to assist my knowledge in dealing with royalty, for example, with celebrities, because it's not just the usual type of hospitality. It's definitely another level. And so I did that, all my training, and then did a very short stint just to wet my hands as a stewardess, loved it, and decided that's it. I'm all in.
I can see how that can happen. When you find your calling, so to speak, because you're matching what your gifts and your talents are with an opportunity to kind of share those gifts and talents. So tell me, Our Faceless Crew business developed, I can see that it could evolve out of everything that you've just said. So tell us a little bit about that, and specifically the services that are provided by Our Faceless Crew, what it means and what it does.
Well, the thing about being crew members on board, until recently, you literally you were just another number. You were more seen than heard. It's not an industry where you really speak up, where you have a lot of rights. The usual rights that you may have in a career on land did not apply to a maritime career, at least not in the super yacht industry. And more over the last couple of years, the idea of the crew being such an integral part of the guest experience and the importance that the crew actually plays in the enjoyment that a yacht owner or his guests may have, it's come to the forefront. We work very hard, and that our rewards, sometimes, yes, we're monetarily rewarded, but we have very little time to ourselves. We are away from home all the time, very often lonely. We're away from family and friends. And so what we need is a support system. And Our Faceless Crew is a new crew community that is a support system for a lot of crew that are in the industry, especially new recruits and junior crew, because they're the ones that they come into the industry at 18, 19 years old. Maybe they've just left college or just left home. They don't yet have the experience of living in such a small environment with so many people, so many personalities, and being able to cope with being away from home and away from family and friends for very long periods of time, sometimes not even being able to go ashore. And so Our Faceless Crew advocates for a community feeling for our crew. We advocate for upskilling. That's a big part of what we do. And when we say upskilling, we mean level up your skills to realize that when you enter yachting, at some point you will exit. And every skill that you attain in yachting is something that could be actually used on land and can make you it puts you in a position to actually be more advanced than many of your colleagues, because yachting is a place where you can really hone in on your people skills, your soft skills. And we are realizing more and more, the world is realizing that technical and hard skills are important, but what really makes a difference to the customer experience is the soft skills, like your leadership qualities, your ability to communicate. And what we're doing is we are assisting crew with this. So leadership is a big topic for us. And when we say leadership, we mean developing that in each and every person, not necessarily the boss on board. You don't have to be the head of a department to have very good leadership qualities about you. Imagine if each person on board or each person on your team has a heightened sense of leadership. Imagine what a team you have. And so this is what we want to do. We're elevating the quality of yachting by making sure that our recruits now have the skills. And Our Faceless Crew is joining other groups, other recruiters, other industry leaders in ensuring that the future of our yachting industry is great.
You mentioned that a lot of people might see the kinds of things that would be done on a yacht because of the show Below Deck. When you think about that, and then an idea of the types of roles that are needed in servicing the yacht. I mean, you have the captain, you have the crew that's preparing the meals, but what are some of the other designated roles?
Well, the thing is, every role, of course, has its own importance, and every crew member is really an influencer to the guest. So you've got the captain, but maybe the captain isn't seen that much by the guest. But you've got the chef, for example. He plays a major role in the success of your trip, of your charter. Now imagine someone has paid $250,000 and up to be on the boat for 1 week, and that's just the basic cost. So it's not just about cost, it's about giving them an amazing experience. So the food, the quality, the innovation that goes into a lot of what comes out of the galley, which is our version of the kitchen, the stewardesses and the type of quality that they give in terms of the service, from whether it's just turning your bed down in a special way to making you exciting cocktails. Our stewardesses are the best moms you can imagine. I can tell you that, because they're nannies. They are great at keeping your pets. They can iron a perfect shirt to an imagination you cannot even have. And at the same time, they're on their feet with a smile, and you can never tell that they've been working sometimes for 18 hours. They've gone down for just an hour for a short rest. They haven't even slept because it's too hard to unwind as yet. And they're back up in the evening, and they're giving you that quality service that you deserve. These are just three of the roles. For example, we have the engineers. Engineers keep that boat going. They help to keep us safe. We've got the deckhands. They're the ones that work on deck outside. They drive your tender to the shore. They give you an amazing experience at water sports. They're the ones who also, if we have a fire on board, these are the guys that are risking their lives for you, the guests. So every single person on board has a very big role. Yes, in the hospitality, but also in the safety. This is why we are so highly trained individuals, because we ensure that if you are miles and miles out to sea, whether with guests or with just the crew, that if we have an emergency, we are prepared to save lives. Preservation of life is a very big role that the yacht crew plays on board.
So now, in your current role, I mean, you are a yacht stewardess. Are you out of Antigua, or you could be out of a number of different places? But right now, where's your primary focus?
Well, my primary focus is Europe. what I've done in my past is I've managed to balance a home work sort of balance. And this is not always usual for a yacht crew. Very often, as I said, they're away for very long periods of time, but I managed to tailor my life to the way I want it, which would be I would work for the season, which is the summer season, because I love European summers. And then for the winter, I would go to Antigua and have my lovely summer weather, even though it was winter in the rest of the world. Or another thing I did was I did something called rotation, where you work for 4 months and then you have 2 months off. But to get to that point, of course, I was senior on board. I worked my way up the ranks and I was able to negotiate that for myself. At the moment, I am trying to transition to land. And this is a very big moment in the part of any yacht crew, because once you have made yachting your career, in whatever format, whether it's on a sailboat, a super yacht, or a tanker, any sort of vessel, once you're in the marine, the maritime industry, you can get very hooked up onto it. And when it's time to transition back to a regular life, it's so hard. The thought of it actually scares you. And I wrote a blog about that today because it makes me a bit nervous. The thought of getting up in the morning and I've got to make my own breakfast. There's no nice breakfast waiting for me from the chef. Nice and healthy. I have to think about my own health. Whereas on board, as much as you're working hard, you have others taking care of you. When you go back to the land, you're taking care of yourself most of the time. So that's one of the things I'm considering. Also, it's a very different pay structure when you go to a land-based job. You're away at sea for a long time and you're getting paid for that inconvenience. You're getting paid for the fact that you're in an environment where if you have an emergency, you can't easily source help. And you are the one who has to take care of the safety of everyone on board. So we're adequately compensated when you work in the super yacht industry. And when you come to land, you're back in the real world of real salaries.
Right.
And so that's another thing I have to consider. So, as I said, I'm in the transition phase, but unable to leave the industry completely. And so Our Faceless Crew has become a way for me to still blend what I love to do in all aspects. And what does Tracey love to do? Tracey loves to be with people. Tracey loves talking with people. Tracey loves helping people, inspiring, advising. I may not be an expert at it, but it's my passion. It's my calling. I've always felt that way. And people always come to me for advice. So I thought, well, let's make it a little bit more official. Let's start a community, slowly build it. And my partner and I, that's what we're doing. And it's really nice because we've only started this maybe a month and a half ago. And in that time, we have already 600 community members. Our website is doing incredibly well. I consider it really successful so far because I thought we'd get maybe a couple hits maybe on maybe some blogs, and was so surprised in the first few weeks to have over 5,000 visitors. We've had so many subscribers already, and feedback that I'm getting in my direct messages every day tells me that somehow I'm on the right track, that what I'm saying and what we are saying is resonating with the right people, with the people that we want to hear our message, which is that you have the ability to empower yourself. And if you're not confident at it, we have a community of people who will empower you. And that yachting, the face of yachting is changing, whereas traditionally yachting might have been people from a certain demographic. We want to see the face of yachting change. And one of the things that we're doing is showing those different faces, letting those different voices be heard. And it's definitely being taken well because the yachting industry is ready for that change.
Well, the diversity is what you're looking for, diversity. With your Our Faceless Crew, are you looking at monetizing that? I mean, you're creating a community that supports one another in their work. Is it also an opportunity somewhere down the road, if not now, to monetize this as a business?
I think that would be the smart thing to do. Let's face it, and let's be very honest. The money is not the main objective, but just to keep the website going and to all the different apps, just to create videos, things like that. These things cost. And if I'm going to give up, for example, if I'm going to give up that fantastic salary, well, something's got to keep my community going. I would love to do events with my community. So that will require some version of monetizing. So what we have done is we've created some mini courses. We offer a lot of free guides, free templates that the yacht crew can use for various departments. Simple things like how to create your LinkedIn page, a little bit of soft skills, talking about soft skills and how to apply them. So we have a lot of free guides. But what we've done is we've noticed that a lot of the training that happens it's very technical training to get you ready for the emergencies, etc. But for real life living on board, well, what about that? That's the thing that you don't actually learn until you're knee deep in it. And that's what's overwhelming for so many of the young crew. So our mini courses address those areas. They help to get the young crew ready for the real life on board. So when they step on board on day one, they're not totally lost, wondering what certain terms mean, what does a certain job entail. They're already prepared with the knowledge. But we also have to acknowledge that young crew do not have money. I think of myself at 18 years old. I don't have a long history of earning behind me. So instead of the usual thousands that many of these courses cost, and sometimes what we do is we open the courses for free to various groups at various times to allow them the opportunity. And it also gives us feedback so we know what to do in the future.
You're building something, when you're building something out of a sincere commitment and passion, you know, those other things will follow because, you know, that's how it happens. And I can feel and understand the passion for what you're doing and the passion to kind of pass it on and helping. And in light of that, I want to know what inspires you most in the work that you continue to do?
I'm definitely always inspired by people. And not everyone's inspired by people. That much I know. But I'm inspired to see people getting from point A to point B in their lives. And the way they come from maybe just a small amount of knowledge with something to really being masters at their craft. And I've seen that happen. I've seen girls that I trained who started off as junior stewardesses going on to be excellent chief stewardesses, running very big vessels, which are like mini hotels, and managing crew of 20 plus other crew. It's amazing to watch. Yeah. And this is what inspires me. Watching people in our industry level up the industry, increase its visibility, because it's now an industry that is becoming a lot more open. It was quite exclusive and quite closed, and it's now opening up, and we have very good ambassadors for the industry. And many of them started off as themselves novices. So this inspires me. I'm very also inspired by others who empower others. This is a big one for me. Watching so many of the people in our industry now not be afraid to speak up and to help others in empowering them through every aspect of their career. We have amazing captains like Kelly Gordon. We have captains like Sandy Yawn and Maywin Beadle. These are female captains I'm calling, but this is, let's face it, this is a year for females. And I point it out simply because I've read their stories, I've interacted with them, and I'm so inspired that the women of today are really taking the steps forward and being so bold, brash, unafraid, just really fearless females. And I'm enjoying watching them, being inspired, and stepping out of my own comfort zone. This interview for me is stepping out of my comfort zone.
You're doing a fantastic job because,
Thank you.
When you go, once again, when you lead with your heart, when you lead with your strong desire, everything, opens up, and your ability to talk about it, you're talking about what you love. I mean, how easy is that? But as we wrap up and we look at, while we're on this particular show, the What's Your Legacy show, what is it that you want your legacy to be?
Oh, wow. When I think of my legacy, I think of what would my children say about me when they get older? What would my friends say about me? What would my colleagues say about me? And so when I was approached to do this show, I actually said to my best friend, if I was to die and you had to say my eulogy, could you tell me what you would say about me? I'm curious to know. And she said, oh my gosh, Tracey, would you please stop being so morbid? And I said, no, it's not about being morbid.
Oh.
I actually want to know, what is the thing about me that really impacts you the most? And she said, Tracey, you're just so supportive. And this is the word that I've always heard all my life. So it's not just a new thing. It's supportive, dedicated, driven. And this makes me feel good because I didn't study mentorship. I don't have a lot of formal training in a lot of things, but I know what my passion is. And if people actually can feel my passion and be influenced and inspired by that passion, as long as it's positive, it makes me feel good. And this for me is my legacy. It's knowing that there are people who will live on when I am no longer on this earth, who will have really wonderful things to say about me, who will say, she really tried to be an advocate for us. She really tried to empower us, make us feel more confident, assist us in any way she could. She wrote us back even when we were just a stranger. And now look at this, we've become friends. I like knowing this. I can think of what I want my legacy to be, but most important is to know what others think my legacy would be. And that's it.
Oh, well, no, it's wonderful. Well, wonderful, Tracey. I mean, thank you. Thank you for sharing your journey. And thank you for showing and demonstrating your passion to be supportive of others. So thank you so much for being on What's Your Legacy?
I thank you very much. This was enjoyable. When you're really speaking about yourself and what you love to do, I realize it comes out a lot easier than I thought it would be.
To open the eyes of young children.
To be the change I want to see.
To bridge gaps between countries and people, to bring people together, to treat people as people.
Thank you for listening to What's Your Legacy, which is sponsored by the law offices of Taylor Hachoose, a firm that has been exceeding the expectations of clients for 2 decades. Wills, trusts, powers of attorney, probate, guardianship, business transactions, to include incorporating, contract drafting, and reviews. Feel free to reach out to us and learn more at ythlaw.com. The What's Your Legacy podcast is made possible by our marketing vice president, Christine Barta, our podcast editor, Emily Weber-Wood, our talent executive, Susan Bascara, our administrative support, Judy Suttle, and me, your host, Yvette Taylor. We look forward to your subscribing, rating, and sharing the podcast with your friends. This podcast is informational only and not intended as legal advice.